Hi, everyone. Welcome to our lunchtime virtual presentation, The Art of Coaching, Finding Your Perfect Match for Career and Personal Growth. I'm Jessica Sanam Hekmat, and I will be leading alongside a group of other fellow alums. I believe everyone should have time to actually eat their lunch, and Zoom fatigue is a real thing, so we're gonna not waste any time. Before I introduce myself and the rest of our presenters, I wanted to give a quick overview of what you can expect from this presentation today. A better understanding of the coaching landscape, clarity on your specific desired outcomes from a coaching engagement, and best practices for highest ROI with coaching. We will go through the presentation fairly quickly because we want to leave as much room as possible for Q&A. We think there's a lot of value in that. As we go through, feel free to jot down your questions, but I hope that many of them will be answered throughout the presentation. So then Dana will give you a heads up when it's a good opportunity for you to actually throw them into the chat, and then we can view the questions at the end. So my name is Jessica Sanam Hekmat. I go by Jess. I'll be guiding today's presentation alongside three fellow Bruins and coaches. They will speak to their experience, focus, services, and clientele, but I'll give the high-level bullets by way of introduction. I myself am a brand strategist and business consultant. I work primarily with entrepreneurs, startups, and businesses to articulate and manifest their purpose. I also work with individuals who are exploring a career shift or potential business idea. And I help those clients explore potential paths and create an action plan to ensure successful work-life integration. My fellow Anderson classmate, also class of 2010, Dana Taylor Old, is a professional certified coach. I can vouch for the fact that she's extremely relatable and engaging, a business facilitator. She has a seasoned corporate background, which she might fill you in on, and hopefully you guys also took a look at her bios, which maximizes her impact for high-profile clients. She's also super passionate about coaching teams and individuals to improve communication and dialogue and elevate outcomes. And we also have Emily Taylor, who is another Anderson alum, class of 08. She actually returned to Anderson to coach over 2,000 students in career management and also transformed UCLA's Career Services Center into the #1 career services program in the top 20 business schools. So Emily uses her insight processes to help thousands of career seekers take their next step, and clients achieve their goals through resumes, LinkedIn profiles that highlight their transferable skills, strategic networking that gains internal referrals, and polished interview delivery that lands offers. And our fourth panelist today is Bill Benson, another UCLA alum, a licensed marriage and family therapist and psychotherapist, as well as a professional counseling coach, certified coach, sorry. And as well as his coaching, he focuses on conflict resolution, career clarity, and negotiation. Bill's private practice in Los Angeles specializes in cognitive behavioral therapy and positive psychology, and he helps individuals and teams strengthen their communication, enhance contribution, and increase productivity. So that is a little bit about us. Now let's get into coaching. I know we have a diverse group here today, but I think everyone has heard the vague word. It's really anyone who advises, guides, teaches, or otherwise supports another person's development, improvement, achievement in an area of skill or expertise, right? So you may have heard some of these terms: life coach, career coach, business coach, facilitator or executive coach, accountability, growth and development coach, and there's so many more that are not on this list. There are formal certifications, there are informal titles. We have 2 PCCs on this panel and a licensed psychologist, and then there's me. And even within those titles, there can be so many different specializations and approaches. So our panel will talk through our various focus areas of coaching, share some examples from our own client work, and types of deliverables or metrics that you can expect from your own coaching experience if you decide to engage. There are obviously as many types of coaches as there are reasons to work with one. These are some of the most common ones in the business realm, and most of us touch upon at least, through all of these areas. the best way to find the right coach is really to be clear about what it is you need help with. And I'm hoping that through today's presentation and seeing some of the journeys that we've helped clients navigate, you'll have a better idea of what it is that you're trying to accomplish through a coaching engagement, and then find someone who focuses on that and is really good at addressing those objectives. The four of us all have different backgrounds, expertise, modalities, processes, and client bases. And we will talk through how each of us coaches and carries that out. First up is Emily. I'll let you dive in. You're still muted.
Okay, unfortunately, we don't have any acoustic tunes to go along with this. Okay, it's so great to have you all join us. So just want to talk briefly through my path and how it's landed me in this current role, and how I see coaching being transformative for the type of people that we work with. So I've always been interested in identifying individuals' intrinsic strengths and figuring out the right role so that they can both add value and find that career fulfillment as well. I did my BA and my first master's at Stanford, and then paired that with an MBA at UCLA Anderson. I was a VP of talent at a high growth VC-backed startup. So, navigating that high growth period of time and figuring out how we identified the right clients. So really gain that insight into what's behind the applicant tracking systems, and how hiring managers are relaying what they're wanting to recruiters, and how to get that foot in the door. And then I got lured back to UCLA Anderson, and taught there for 6.5 years. So I had a 6-month course and got to work with all the first year MBAs, and consequently have a really great UCLA network from this, and have gone to see a lot of different career paths and what makes people successful throughout it, and how to help them land the right roles. Started my own company, Next Up Careers, in 2018, brought on some of my favorite teaching assistants as well. And I personally coached over 300 clients the last 5 years, worked with corporate clients as well, especially companies that are interested, like Johnson & Johnson wanted to have better retention of its scientists and trying to teach them how to network within the company. And I've worked with a bunch of PE-backed companies too that wanted for executive profiles too on LinkedIn. I love that. But primarily my work is with working with individuals. And I like to take a very process-driven approach. All my clients have dashboards, and roughly mapping out what the coaching engagement is going to look like, but always having some flexibility too, because no client is going to be the same, right? Some people are going to need more career pathing, others are going to need more time on interview prep to really make sure that their story lands, right? So at the bottom of the slide, you can see kind of the typical path for career pathing. I have an exercise that I have all my clients do. I went through a training by the head of career services from Harvard Business School, and made some adaptations to that career exercise, and have created a couple other exercises as well that I had for my UCLA Anderson students. So for people that want more career pathing, I can scaffold that and have access to some ones that will have algorithms and things like that too, if you want to go even deeper on that. But with also a part of career pathing, as we are identifying the right industry and function, I oftentimes will show people profiles on LinkedIn, and it's kind of like an eye doctor visit, right? Like, does this one career resonate more with you, or does this one? Yeah, we can, so then after we've identified if we could go back, yeah, the right career path, then we will then dive into resume design. And with that, my personal style working with clients on resume is I like to have a Word document open, asking them lots of questions, them being able to do stream of consciousness. I transcribe, we shape those bullets together to get the most authentic version of their resume. And then we're also of course, doing things with applicant tracking systems to make sure you get through that. LinkedIn optimization, so that when you're networking, people are responding, as well as recruiters finding you. There's also a lot of tricks too for those of us that spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. Then networking, really making sure to utilize the UCLA network as much as possible, and also finding out those other people to connect with. In the US, 71% of jobs are acquired by networking. So it is just an essential thing. So even if you feel like, oh, this might not be authentic to me, figuring out ways to connect with other individuals, because you're going to add value to them as well down the line. And then, obviously too, with interviewing, so key if you're making sure that your stories are landing right. And then ultimately negotiations. Obviously great to have multiple offers at that time and figuring out how to structure the best one. And nobody's ever going to be surprised if you come back and you are trying to negotiate your offer. So real quickly, actually can go to the next slide. I love, my favorite part actually is capturing people's stories, and LinkedIn is such a marvelous way to depict people's personal stories, as well as the strengths that they bring. So these are two UCLA alums that I've worked with. Clay was when he was coming out of UCLA Anderson, trying to make that pivot from the agency world into video gaming. Actually, if you click on the next slide, just the animation, yeah, you'll see he then went to Scopely, has had several promotions, and actually just went public. So that worked out really well for him. Also worked with his wife. I've been really lucky not to have to advertise and work with a lot of significant others, friends, classmates, colleagues, people like that. But with him, we wanted to figure out how to upskill, make his story as linear as possible. Anna, another wonderful alum, worked with her on her executive MBA applications, and then I've worked with her on 2 other job searches. She was a food editor at Pop Sugar, so she wanted to do work in tech marketing. So figuring out how those transferable skills and the terms that we could use to take those food recipes and articles and really optimize her profile and her resume so that it seemed like she was already working in product marketing. Another example, I had somebody who was, I have a lot of people mid-career that are looking for more meaning, particularly coming out of the pandemic. So someone who was an MD at a major investment bank, had worked in oil and gas his entire career, wanted to make that switch. So figuring out how to get him he wanted to switch into tech. So got him into an executive certificate program so that we could show that he's, even though he's spent his whole career in oil and gas, that he's a really agile learner, and then position him to end up being a CFO at a startup that's linked with the DoD, which got acquired by a private equity firm, and now he's the CEO of that roll-up company. So that's always just great to work with people on multiple iterations. Most of my engagements I'd say most of my working professionals are about 7 to 10 hours. And that kind of depends on how much career pathing, how much mock interviews. So that's a little bit about me.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Dana Old. That's not a typo. We should probably start there. Old really is my last name, so super disappointing, but we can just move on. At the highest level, I am a one-on-one coach and group workshop facilitator. And my hope, my intention is to help clients find clarity and confidence, either in that group setting or one-on-one. Just a little bit of background on me. I received my BA from the University of Pennsylvania with a degree in communication, lived and worked in New York City, and then used UCLA Anderson as my excuse to get back to California. I spent about a decade in CPG brand management. So at Nestle and then at Red Bull. Nestle on the health and wellness candy brands, if that makes sense. Think Raisinets, Goobers, and Snow Caps. And then on some of Halloween's finest, Laffy Taffy, Sweet Tarts, and Nerds. I then jumped over to Red Bull. I did not throw anybody out of space, but I worked on the can side of the business. So a lot of the new flavors, pack sizes, and really had a great time. It was about 5 years ago where I realized, hey, what do I want to do to really fill my cup and drive impact in the world? And for me, that is one-on-one coaching and group facilitation. So I made that pivot about 5 years ago, where I believe it allows my skill set to shine, and then personality. I am certified with ICF, I think International Coaching Federation. Why I put that there? It's some credibility, it's some street cred, but also it's just a lot of that practice to get that confidence of how do you shift and now say that you can be a great coach for Bill or Emily or Jess because you have run a lot of those laps and done a lot of those reps. What do I focus on? All things in a communication, leadership, presence, team building umbrella. Anything there seems to fit for me. And what I hope to bring to the table with my clients, that balance of authenticity, relatability, maybe a little bit of humor, and then match that with buttoned up professionalism and expertise. In terms of the types of clients I work with, a joy for me is that it's agnostic to industry, agnostic to function, and agnostic to title. So everyone can benefit from this type of work, which is, I guess, a key salient point I want you to take away. And then there's this idea of meeting clients where they are. No client is the same. And so topics can be very different. Topics can vary from session to session. Topics can vary from the first 20 minutes of a session to the middle 20 minutes to the final 20 minutes. And then as you're exploring coaching and what it offers you, oftentimes there's difference in platforms or mechanics. It might be Zoom, and that makes a lot of sense. Others might say, hey, let's do a walk and talk because that really lands for me. I need to get away from the screen, or I do my best thinking when I'm out and about and walking around. So there are a lot of these considerations that we as coaches take into account to meet our client where they are and see what is going to be most impactful for them and for their growth. Go ahead and go to the next slide, Jess, if you don't mind. So a few nuggets that I wanted to drop that hopefully, again, offers some value as you uncover a little bit more about the art of coaching, as I think we're calling it. At the top, my goal, my hope is to serve as an ally and a sparring partner or a sounding board for the client. I do not have all of the answers. The client, you all, potential client, people exploring coaching, you have agency, you have decision rights. I am here to poke, to prod, to maybe give a little love slap if you need a little bit of tougher love. Open some new doors if one seems stuck, but to really be that sparring partner that maybe you don't feel as though you have an outlet in the other realms of your life. A few coaching nuggets, a mindset shift, I would say, over the decades. When coaching started decades ago, it was seen as a little bit more punitive. Ooh, Jess is not performing. We need to get her a coach. And you, oh, shoot, scary emojis, all those things that come out. Whereas now it could be a reward, or I'm deserving of this time to hold space for myself, to develop my skills. Whether you pay for this out of your own pocket, a private pay, or if a corporation pays for it on your behalf, there has definitely been that positive shift where coaching is that benefit to you. I alluded to this earlier, the client's in the driver's seat. You come to the table with the topic. You come with the agenda and what you want to work on. If Bill comes to me and I say, okay, Bill, we're going to talk about feedback today. It's like, what? No, I don't want to talk about feedback. So that doesn't serve. So when you come to the table for a coaching engagement, you are in that driver's seat and we are here to spar, to play tennis with you across the net, and whatever you throw across, we bat back at you, but you are leading. Usually, and Emily was starting to allude to this, I go more on a coaching package basis versus a one-off. There might be some benefit, but for real transformation and progress, it helps to have multiple sessions. And on that note, sessions are great. We'll have a lot of fun in the 50 minutes. You'll learn a lot, but the real work is what's done in the 2, 3, 4 weeks, depending between, where you take some of those challenges or you take some of those inquiries and really flex those muscles and try some things on, and then come back to your coach for that subsequent session. And then just some common situations that lead people to coaching, at least in my area. Hey, Dana, I want to get to that next level. I'm just time checking. We're good. I want to get to that next level and I need someone to help. I'm moving from an individual contributor to a team leader. Whoa, what do I do? This is new territory for me. Help. I want more confidence in public speaking and or influencing others up, down, and around in my organization. Very popular topic. I don't feel like I'm focusing on the correct things. I'm spinning my wheels. I'm not making progress, or I'm burning out. I need some accountability. What's nice about a coach, we provide that accountability, but what I'll say is without judgment. So if you don't answer a challenge or you don't fulfill an inquiry, I'm not going to judge you. I will push you and say, well, what happened, Emily? Why didn't you? What's going on there? But people know, oh, Dana's going to ask me about this, so I better do it. So there is that push to get that progress and that momentum. And then lastly, as I mentioned earlier, maybe you want to talk about something and I am a safe space. Coaches can be a safe space beyond your colleague, your manager, or those in your personal sphere. All right. Thanks so much for the time.
All right. So I really appreciate that both Dana spoke to their career trajectory and how they ended up becoming coaches. And Bill has a very interesting story as well, which he'll share in a minute. I think it's valuable to know about us, just in terms of how it has informed our approach in coaching. But also, I think it speaks to how we all have to navigate our own career pivots and transitions. I knew I wanted to be a coach actually at 24 years old, but it was way too early. I saw a career coach myself at that age after 3 years in entertainment public relations. And I looked around the agency that I was working at and noticed that nobody was actually living the life that I wanted for myself. And so I sought out a career coach before applying to grad school. And I was fascinated by the questions, the frameworks, assessments that I did in that very short, focused coaching engagement during what I call my quarter life crisis. And I couldn't have predicted that my path would lead me here to eventually call myself a coach. Admittedly, a few years after having already acted as one, I have now been doing this for about 10 years since I left social media strategy at Mattel. And now I focus on brand strategy and business coaching and consulting. But at my core, I've always been a storyteller, and that's really the through line throughout all the pieces of my career. Even my 6.5-year-old Charlie knows how to explain what I do to other people. He says, my mom helps people and businesses tell their stories. And I love it because it's so true and succinct. And also that can mean so much for either an individual or a team. I actually don't see a difference between working with entrepreneurships, startups versus individuals who are just trying to navigate their way to the next piece of their career. So my areas of focus are career mapping, and I'm going to show you an example in a couple slides, brand strategy, brand voice, what the brand really sounds like, what the words, the sense of humor, the tone, the style that the brand communicates in, marketing communications, business development, employee engagement. I was recently chief of staff for one of my clients, figuring out what their review process was going to be, their accountability, which was slightly outside my own comfort zone, but that's also how we continue to grow and amass these different skill sets that help each of our clients moving forward. Dana alluded to how she's industry agnostic, level agnostic. I work very similarly in that way. It's personally very gratifying because I get to learn so much about each space and people's stories. And the piece of work that I'm doing is, very much the same for each person in terms of just really trying to get what is driving you, right? What is the purpose, the mission, the vision, whether it's just for you as a person, because that will then end up translating to everything you do professionally, or if it's for the specific business that you're currently engaged in. And from that, we determine what's your positioning, what's your unique value proposition in the landscape in which you play? What are the points of differentiation? How do we tell that story to your target audience? And my favorite piece of this work is what I call brand ideals, a framework that I did not realize when I was learning it in one of my business classes at Anderson, that would be the template and framework for pretty much the most important, I think, and impactful work I do with my clients, which is really crafting the core values, the brand DNA. What do you stand for? What do you believe in? What is the reason for existence for this brand? And that can be, again, a business or a person. And what is the voice and messaging that dovetails from that? So my scope of work translates very seamless individuals, startups, solopreneurs, teams within larger organizations versus someone debating their next career move. I wanted to just throw a few of my recent clients up here at a glance. On the left is Lunar Sync, a cyclic daily supplement, which was specially formulated to address the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle. On the right is a real estate development in Pasadena, which was a return client. We first worked on career mapping, what he wanted for his career overall and how that would translate to his brand for his real estate firm, and then went on to brand individual properties that are within his portfolio. Then on the bottom left is an interior designer who was also a career switcher from educational psychology. She was working in schools, and design was actually her passion. So we created a very psychologically informed website for her that was really tapping into what her client base was going to resonate with. And then on the right is Alley-oop, a beauty startup that I have worked with now in various incarnations. That's where I was actually chief of staff recently, but also helped with their marketing launch and a rebrand, and continue to go in there for content and communications, which my favorite thing is, I think Dana spoke to this as well, like return clients. And Emily mentioned people come back and they refer their friends, and I've never done any sort of marketing for my business. It's literally just word of mouth. And I think that is probably the most powerful referral source. And I think, as you're seeing, we all do very different types of work, all with the same intention and goal in mind for our clients. But when someone has worked personally with a coach and they tell you how they function, I think that's really valuable for evaluating whether that person is the right fit for you or not. So as I spoke to my types of clients vary, and it can be B2B or B2C, or people just talking to themselves while they're figuring out what's next. The spaces I play in are tech, education, beauty, medical and wellness, real estate, law, hospitality. And the scope of work, kind of the process is similar for everyone. Everyone starts with a 3 to 4 hour, what I call a branding workshop, where I ask a ton of questions. And I always say many of them are intentionally repetitive to get to the core of what drives you and your vision. And then the deliverables slightly depend on what it is you're trying to get out of it. So it can be a career map that evaluates your different paths and gives concrete list of action items and an associated timeline for that. It can be a brand strategy, brand voice guide, website strategy, actual website copy. A few of these websites that I'm showing you, every single word on that website I wrote. And then also like news content and other marketing content, even the email that you might want to send to your network announcing what your next move is or what you're thinking about, or seeking out informational interviews. I have gotten so much feedback and amazing leads every time I've made a shift, or I'm even thinking about making a shift. I'll send an email to my network and I'll tailor it for the people that need to be tailored for, but it's like really authentic. Like, this is where I'm at, and this is how you as someone in my network can help me out. And I did want to take a second to let you guys in behind the curtain, because I think it's super helpful to understand what deliverables you could expect from a coaching engagement. In my instance, this is an example of what I call career mapping, which articulates the client's career intentions and a roadmap for next steps in exploring and executing their vision. This is actually a snapshot from a client that found me through another UCLA panel, an educator who felt conflicted in her current job and wanted to explore ideas in experiential learning and accessible education. And people are often really eager to get to the end result, but I found that it really requires reflection and intention setting to understand the why of what you want to do before the what and the how. So what you're seeing here is me outlining business intentions, marketing objectives, what the client indicated as their professional bucket list, my recommendations on how to shift her resources and investment to help achieve those bucket list items, either in the short, medium, or long term. And for every client, there's always a brand positioning, really, and it can be formal or informal. The beauty of this work is that it's meant as an internal document or compass for the client, but it's written in a way that it can be very easily lifted, copied and pasted into external facing communications. So this is just kind of a snapshot of what it looks like to work with individual clients, but deliverables are similar in terms of a brand strategy or a voice guide. And I will pass it off to Bill.
Hello. Nice to meet you all. It's a privilege. I want to start by I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on me, but you can go to thementaljim.com, read all about my philosophy and my training and all that stuff. I am a licensed psychotherapist. I have a license in marriage family therapy, as well as a professional clinical counseling. So I take, as far as a career counseling approach, I look at the psychological aspects of things. I'm a brain science geek. I love the way that works. I love using my whiteboard and my markers and showing you how thoughts create feelings and feelings create actions and all that good stuff. And really, I want to free you up. The title of my slide is Getting Out of Your Own Way. I really want to free you up to present who you are. They say the definition of psychology is attaining your true potential. So I think all of us here today are really interested in helping you attain your full potential and conveying that so that the puzzle pieces of life can fall together. So just the quick thing about the story that Jess mentioned about my background. I was a teenage actor. So I was this television actor, and I got into film school, and then at UCLA, and then I started a career in, I continued acting, and then I got out of that, and then I went to directing and TV production and all that good stuff. And how the heck did I end up being a psychotherapist? Well, this is why I wanted to tell you the story, is that I think our career finds us. If we're curious. So I think the key here is we have to be curious in life. We have to be curious about who we are. Jess was mentioning quarter life crisis. You know, I have a lot of clients, both in the career counseling space as well as the psychotherapy space, that have their quarter life crisis or their midlife crisis, and it's fascinating. I think one of the most damaging questions an adult can ask a kid is, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" Now that sounds controversial. Why would I say that? Well, because we want to please our parents or the people asking us. So at 9 years old, we're going to say, "I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a lawyer. I'm going to be an actor." And so we set about our, lives trying to attain and fulfill these goals. And a lot of times we'll go to med school, or we'll go to law school, or we'll end up on television or whatever it is. And then we somehow don't feel fulfilled, and we can't figure it out because we attained what we said we were going to attain. And this quarter life, midlife crisis thing happens out of that kind of dismay and disillusionment. I'm all set up. I look great on paper, but I'm not happy. And then, so I realized, using this analogy, is that a lot of us, full-fledged adults with fully developed minds, our mind doesn't end up, kind of completing itself till about 24 years old. We're still living by a decision we made when we were 9 years old. And so I think all of us here, we're here to help you pivot. We're here to help you investigate who you are now and use who we were. And there's a little boy or a little girl in all of us, but the key here is to find out who you are now. What speaks to you? What are you passionate about? How do you want to contribute? And once we get that, then it doesn't become about how am I doing, or I want to prove and defend and promote and protect, or I want to please my parents. It becomes about, what do I want to experience in my journey to life? Alice in Wonderland is an interesting movie, I guess, but the Alice Through the Looking Glass novel, Lewis Carroll, is actually kind of a philosophical thing. And the first scene, when the Cheshire Cat meets Alice comes to a fork in the road. There's a Cheshire Cat, and Alice says, "Please, sir, can you tell me which path to take?" And the Cheshire Cat says, "Well, that depends. Where do you want to go?" And Alice says, "I don't know." And then the Cheshire Cat says, "Well, then it doesn't matter what path you take." It's so important to know what path you take, because you're going to take a path. Now, if you don't have any clarity about that, you might end up halfway down the path and not like it very much. So I think all of us here are rooting for you and helping you clarify what path you're on. Do you want to pivot? Do you want to take another fork in the road? What's fulfilling to you? Because once you understand what's fulfilling to you, then you want to contribute. And it's not about the big audition. Life is more of an experience, not an audition. And that, again, that's not just the realm of career counseling. That's finding your mate. That's finding the group of people you hang out with. That's everything. So if we want to have an experience with life and stop auditioning for life, then all of a sudden anxiety levels go down and depression evaporates, because we're purposeful. So that's kind of what I do, is I focus on those kind of things. So, you know, a job interview or trying to get people to interact with you differently, or perhaps get a promotion, whatever it is, that agnostic thing we were talking about earlier, this kind of thought fits into all those modalities, all those goals, all those adjustments. And then I think the clearer we are, then our career finds us. Just like, so going back to my story, is when I was an actor, I loved the research. I loved doing the character study, figuring out the backstory of a character. Why do they do the things they do? The subtext of the scene, you know, what's going on in the character's head, et cetera, et cetera. In film school, I learned how to direct people. So what do I do now? I figure people out and I direct them. I just do it clinically. So in retrospect, I found out, oh, my fascination for human nature and my fascination for directing people towards a positive outcome are all in play as I am now as a clinician. So I team with people. My company's The Mental Gym. I really believe in the team approach. I think you work on your emotional muscle much like you do at the gym. You hire me like you hire a coach at the gym. I work on your emotional muscle. They work on your physical muscle. So that's my strategy. How do we get you out of your head and clarifying who you are so you can contribute and get into your life? This slide here, I'll go back. Go. All right. So stop auditioning, start assessing. So the best thing to do if you're nervous in an interview, don't think about you. Get interested in them. Remember, they're the ones who are posting the job. They need your help. So how can you help them? So you do that by listening. So you ask them questions. You use your curiosity. You throw it off of you and onto the other person. You just try to stay away from proving yourself and promoting yourself. You just have to be yourself, and then see through listening, things will come up. You know, the exchange. I think the key to an effective job interview is a conversation. You want to get away from that presentational thing. Bullet point 2, pay attention. The interview is like a first date, right? Collect the data. Stop thinking, oh, how am I going to get this person from point A to point B? Forget about it. Just be yourself. Show them who you are. Show them your passion. And then be improvisational. You know, let the back and forth occur. So many times I find in dealing with people in HR, people will hire people because they like them. And sure, the resume is important and the packaging is important, but there's nothing worse than being all packaged and wonderful, and you know, and then show up to the interview and have somebody that just is flatline. You got to have a personality. You gotta be passionate about things. You got to have a conversation, and the people in HR will root for you if you let them. So show them who you are and how you can help. And assess the fit. Have a conversation with them. Ask them what they need. How can I help? So that you can understand more how you can fit. And then finally, if it's not a fit, that doesn't mean it's the end game. Look, I with my actor clients, for example, they'll have a big audition. They say, oh, if I get this TV series, then my whole world's going to change. And they're so, you know, freaked out about, oh, I've got to prove myself and everything else. And I'm like, no, you got to look at it like a painting. Like if you're the color orange and you're up for a role and they're painting the director and the producers are painting a painting and their painting is blue and not orange, you're not going to get the role. But your job is to show up as orange and be orange, because chances are down the road, they might, paint using an analogy, an orange painting, and then they'll think of you. So you got to play the long game. You got to just feel good about who you are and offer your help. And that's how your career finds you. So in working with people, that's kind of how I work. And one thing to note, because of the psychological aspects of what I do, I'm a licensed clinician. And so your insurance might reimburse you for a portion of the fees that I charge. It depends on the content of the session, but from where I go, the psychological aspects of your career and your life they are potentially insurance reimbursable. So that's what I got.
Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. All right, we are at about 12:40. In a moment, we are going to pass it off to you all for a Q&A. Wanted to hold a good amount of time. I'm going to buy you some time to think through your questions and type it into the Q&A as Lauren shared with you in the chat. And while you do that, I'm just going to drop a few tips for a successful coaching engagement that we were just populating amongst the four of us. Prioritizing here, this needs to be a good fit. I was taught something very early on when taking on new clients. It's a two-way street, and you want to look at your calendar and you want to be excited to see that coach's name pop in your calendar. You do not want that look of obligation or, oh, shoot, do I have to talk to Dana right now? But rather, oh, yay, I get 50 minutes to hold space for myself, to spar, and to have the great dialogue. So you really want to make sure that the fit is there. I'm going to skip around a little bit to help to do that. Test the waters. If you are serious about a coach, explore 2, 3, get a sense for fit, offerings, examples of who they've worked with, to see what types of results they've had, to get a better sense for how their style, their approach. As you've seen with the four of us, we're all very different, which is a positive. And so what is the best fit for you? Jess mentioned this at the upfront. Get clear on why you need a coach and what you want to work on. We are not mind readers, nor should we be. We want you to come to the table with that clear-ish idea of where you want to go or what you're grappling with. And then it will be for us together to unpack, to provide some clarity, some confidence, get you unstuck. You're hearing a lot of the similar themes from all four of us. I like what Bill said, we're all rooting for you. And so help prime us for success and prime yourself for success to know why you need a coach and what good might look like. Do the pre-work, articulate the desired outcomes. What is that visioning? At the end of an engagement, a good result might be X or Y or Z. Bring the meaty topics. Either your company or you are going to be paying for this engagement. Make it worth the time. What is keeping you up at night? What is hamster wheeling in your head? Bring those topics to fruition to really drive the most impact. Open some of those doors that might be closed. All right, so that's what we have. With time, let's go over to the Q&A. Correct. All right. So what questions do you have? You can always follow up with any of us individually. Just thanks for going to the next slide. There is one that we have, the top one I'll start with. And then as you think of more, go ahead and start asking. We have some others that might make sense to bring to the table as well. The first one, Dana, what are some advantages to a punitive approach to coaching as opposed to the rewarding approach? Is there any literature you would recommend to learn about these topics? To start with the second piece, I don't know of any literature on this. Transparency is one of my values. So I don't have a book to pass on right now. But I just hit on the idea that this is more about mindset and the shift that has happened over time. So whereas maybe you were a little itchy to take a coach or to get a coach because that means something bad, this is now the opportunity where, hey, there's benefit, there is growth and development that can come from it. And so if somebody does say, hey, you need some work, we're going to give you a coach, what's the positive intent behind that? They value you enough that they want to invest in a coach for you, that they have that potential, but there are things for you to work on and work through. So I guess that could be more of that punitive lens versus you're awesome, a high performer, we want to reward you with a coach, but there is always going to be that investment. All right. I am interested in finding a career coach. Does the UCLA Alumni Association offer a vetted directory of coaches to explore and reach out to?
Yes.
Jess, why don't you take that?
Yeah, the answer to that is yes. Lauren, when she has a moment, can throw the link into the chat. Actually, that's how I connected with Bill. Found you through UCLA has a directory. I'm sure it's not exhaustive, especially since we all kind of come to, like, I'm not on there, for example, right? So there's different types of coaches, but I think it's a really good starting point because it has everyone's bios, and it's hard to find a coach unless someone specifically says to you like so-and-so. So I think that's a great resource, and I'll let Lauren follow up with the link.
Yeah, Lauren's put it into the chat, right? And I'll say it, I thought UCLA did a great job with this page. I mean, obviously I'm a little biased since I am on this page, and Just, you should definitely be on this page. But I thought they did a great job of capturing both like industry of expertise, or perhaps stage or like focus. You've got access to the bios. You can go explore deeper with websites. Happened to be on the Stanford list, and all they did was put it geographically, which I don't actually think really matters anymore, right? Since with the virtual world of coaching, so we all work with people all over the globe. I'll also want to say that for a lot of coaches will, particularly for UC alums, will do at least a complimentary 20-minute consult. And to the list that Dana had about really finding that right fit, it's kind of like, initial like first date, right? Just to make sure that it's the right vibe. I often say, like, if somebody's looking for a coach that's going to be more like, sit down on the couch and like tell me about your, experiences with your job, and I kind of want to do that deeper dive into it. I'm not the right coach. I'm more transactional. So it's really good to test out like who's going to be the right fit for getting to the right place for you.
Perfect. Awesome.
Also a note. Through the UCLA Alumni Association, since we're talking about that, they asked me to do a webinar on July 27th. The title is Optimizing Life by Updating the Way We Think. Like I mentioned, I'm a brain science geek, and I love the way you're, explain the way your brain operates so that you can begin to understand your thoughts and your feelings and your actions, and work on some of that nervousness and anxiety around the interviewing process, or the job placement process, or the job promotion process. So that's on the 27th. If you log on to UCLA One, which is the Alumni Association website, you'll see it there, and you can click in. It's a free webinar. I just wanted to offer that as well.
Perfect. And Lauren just added it to the chat. Okay, great conversations there. We have a few more. Quickly, I can answer this one, and Bill, there are two for you after that.
Sure.
Dana, can you elaborate a bit more by what you mean by industry agnostic? Sure. So quickly, that everybody, irrespective of if you are in healthcare, if you are in education, if you are at a startup, and if you are at a big company, a coach could definitely serve and be useful for you. I am coaching the CFO of a gaming company right now. I'm coaching a lead sales guy from a CPG organization, a school principal. You can just see that everybody from different industries has communication, presence, leadership, topics that come to mind where having that sparring partner can serve them. All right, cool. All right, and then let's skip over Bill. What kinds of overlap do you notice when doing career, individual, and relationship counseling?
Lots and lots and lots. And that's why everything's a relationship. I use the analogy red and blue. If you mix red and blue together, what do you get? Anybody? Mix red and blue.
Yellow. Kidding.
Purple. You get purple. Okay. So in any kind of arrangement, look, interaction is interaction, right? So you got to have two people that know their color, right? Clarity, and then a willingness, equal intention. So if you mix them together, you get nice, even purple. That's a nice, healthy relationship, whether that's an intimate relationship, a friendship, a work relationship, or even a relationship with yourself for that matter. But assessing for equal intention, what people want to do and how they want to work together through clarity, through curiosity, like I mentioned before, very important. So there is a lot of overlap there. That's why the psychological, element of career counseling, I think, is so fascinating, because it does transcend not only the career space, but also your life space. So I hope that answers the question.
Great. And I'd encourage you all to continue to think through. If there are any questions coming up, again, no pressure. If you want to reach out individually, or if something comes up later down the road, you have access to all of us on the screen there with our emails. But while you continue to think and type, Bill, one more in the chat, you can see it. What are your views or approach on navigating a person's story or background that led them to coaching if they're more hesitant to share for fear of judgment?
Okay. I don't see the question, but I just listened to what you said.
Yeah.
Okay. So fear of judgment, the way back to the brain. Look, our brain hasn't really updated itself in 20,000 years. So we're still dealing with kind of a caveman brain in our head, and we got to use it like a tool. It's a 3.5-pound tool in our head. But we think Descartes was wrong. I think, therefore I am. No, not really. We have to transcend that and step outside of it with perspective and use this like a tool. So our brain wants to go into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn mode, which is the evolutionary thought of I've got to duck and cover and stay small, or the wolf is going to come and eat me, right? So we're still dealing with kind of the caveman brain that's scanning the horizon for incoming. So we've got to transcend that. So whenever you are afraid of judgment, it's a form of that. Your brain has taken over. One of the things I have here, this is called the cognitive distortion chart, cognitive behavioral therapy. I love handouts and things like that. We work through things, but it's about awareness. I'm not out to change people. I'm out to make them more aware of who they are. So through that, they can make the appropriate changes for their life. So in this case, what I would do is I would give somebody the cognitive distortion chart, and we go through all the different ways our brain tries to take over and create the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn mode in order to protect ourselves. And then we've got to unknot that, because we're at the top of the food chain. We don't have to be afraid that we're going to get humiliated, or we don't have to protect ourselves. We have to be ourselves and contribute who we are. And through that, we find our fit.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
And as of now, I don't see any more questions. So Jess, yeah, I'll turn it over to you for the close.
Just wanted to thank our panelists for making the time to prepare and speak today. Thank you to Lauren for putting this all together and executing on my vision. I think that I hear a lot of people, especially being in LA, talking about having a coach or wanting a coach. And I feel like there's been a lot of like ambiguity around it. So I really hope that today's content and some of what we shared help demystify any of that for you. And we are all here and accessible. If there are follow-up questions, we all have extensive networks and are happy to put you in touch with someone else that may be a better fit. And yes, the best way to reach out to us is by sending an email. I will go back to the previous slide just so that it's there in case anyone wants to take a quick screenshot of that. And you are welcome to follow up with any one of us. Thank you all again for your time. I hope you go eat some lunch and have a productive and wonderful afternoon. Bye.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Bye-bye.